we're going to do is elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. After watching the Obamas last night, that was some epic fire, wasn't it? Some epic.
Good evening, everyone. Oprah begins her voice. Resonant and inviting. Tonight we're here for something truly special, a night dedicated to laughter, love, and maybe just a little bit of roasting. She pauses, letting her gaze sweep over the crowd, before adding, and who better to roast than someone who's already made themselves the punchline of history. The audience erupts into applause, clearly excited by the prospect of watching Oprah take on none other than Donald J. Trump. But first, Oprah continues, adjusting her earrings with a playful smirk. Let me set the stage. Back in 2000, I once wrote a letter to Mr. Trump saying, too bad we're not running for office. What a team. She lets this sink in for a moment before delivering the punchline. Publish letters that he's received over the years. One of your letters is front and center. I heard about that. Okay, back in 2000 you wrote him, too bad we're not running for office. What a team. I think he'd written a book and said that he wanted me to be his running mate. Little did I know he'd go on to prove my point that teamwork isn't exactly his strong suit. The crowd bursts into laughter, clapping enthusiastically as Oprah leans forward conspiratorially. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think Donald has some admirable qualities. For instance, his ability to turn even the simplest tasks into grand spectacles is nothing short of impressive. Case in point, his recent voting experience. Here, Oprah adopts a mock serious tone, apparently moments after casting his vote in Palm Beach, Florida. Trump decided to vent about Fox News airing clips of yours truly at a Kamala Harris campaign event. She mimics Trump's exaggerated voice flawlessly. They shouldn't have done that. It was unfair. Oprah chuckles softly, shaking her head. Oh, Donald, darling, if only you could see yourself through our eyes. You've spent years dominating headlines, yet somehow someone showing up at a rival rally still feels like a personal affront. Yourself and you know who else should be ashamed. Fox, because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement, and I think it's a disgrace what Fox does, because everyone thinks Fox is so pro-Trump. They're not pro-Trump. Talk about thin skin. Now let's talk about leadership, Oprah says, shifting gears seamlessly. As many of you know, I've always believed in empowering others to lift people up rather than tearing them down. Unfortunately, not everyone shares this philosophy. As elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States, she pauses dramatically, her expression turning slightly wistful. You see, there are leaders who inspire hope, and then there are those who seem determined to scare the pants off us. Here she references a recent statement. Just last week I warned America that we stand on the precipice of dangers if we allow fear to dictate our choices. Oprah chuckles softly, shaking her head. And speaking of fear, remember when Donald tried to convince us that wind turbines cause cancer, or that climate change is a hoax invented by the Chinese? She raises an eyebrow, her tone dripping with sarcasm. It's almost as if he believes science exists solely to ruin his golf courses. The audience laughs heartily, appreciating the sharp wit behind each jab. But enough about science, Oprah declares, smoothing down her gown. Let's move on to another favorite topic: walls work in the hard work of democracy, and every now and then it requires standing up to life's necklace. With a sly grin, back in the day I used to tell people, you get a car, you get a car, everyone gets a car. She pauses, allowing the memory to resonate before continuing. But apparently Donald prefers a different approach. I'm the smartest person in the Room the best president ever, believe me. Folks, nobody builds walls like me. She delivers the lines with perfect comedic timing, sending the audience into stitches. Of course, humility isn't exactly his forte. She adds dry. If Michelangelo were designing statues for Donald, he'd need extra marble, not for the hands but for the pedestal beneath them. This line elicits thunderous applause, proving once again that Oprah knows how to deliver a killer punchline. As we reflect on these topics, Oprah continues, her tone growing slightly more serious. Let's also consider the importance of empathy, a quality sorely lacking in today's political climate. She sighed deeply, her expression softening. Think about it, while millions struggle to make ends meet, Donald seems preoccupied with cutting taxes for billionaires, rolling back environmental protections, and tweeting insult at anyone who dares question him. And everyone says, oh, he wants Oprah to be number one. It wouldn't be for Oprah, but I do like her a lot. Has he contacted you? Have not gotten the call. You've not? If he did make the call, would you take the call? I would say, Donald, I'm with her. I see. She pauses, choosing her words carefully. It's not just about policy. It's about perspective. When you spend your life surrounded by gold-plated everything, it's easy to lose sight of reality. But here's the thing, most people don't live in gilded towers. They live paycheck to paycheck, dreaming of better days, not bigger yachts. The audience murmurs in agreement, nodding vigorously. And then there's the matter of dictatorship. Oprah says, her voice taking on a sharper edge. Some might call it authoritarianism, others might label it delusion. Personally, I prefer to think of it as both. She smirks, recalling a past comment. Back in the day, I called Donald a dictator, and guess what? He accused me of being very insecure. May this is just watched a very insecure over Winfrey. Which is, have you ever been? Have you been insecure like any time in the last 35 years? I'm tried to think about, have I ever? Probably not. I'm trying to think when that would be. Well, he said, who at one point I knew very well. Interview a panel of people on 60 minutes. The questions were biased and slanted, the facts incorrect. Hope Oprah runs so she can be exposed and defeated, just like all of the others. How did you? Oh, the irony. She shakes her head, laughing softly. Delusional or not, one thing is certain. Donald loves nothing more than labeling anyone who disagrees with him as fake news, traitors, or worse yet, enemies of the state. Oprah adopts a mock serious tone. Newsflash: Donald calling someone a traitor doesn't make it true, it just makes you look paranoid. The audience roars with laughter, clearly enjoying the takedown. But perhaps the biggest red flag of all, Oprah continues, her tone turning somber, is the fact that Donald is a convicted felon. She lets this sink in for a moment before elaborating. Yes, folks, a convicted felon, one who repeatedly lied under oath, manipulated the system, and violated laws with impunity. She leans forward, her voice rising above the din. And yet, despite all this evidence, he still expects us to trust him, because according to him, nobody knows the system better than me. Oprah mimics Trump's voice perfectly, sending the audience into fits of laughter. New newsflash: Donald knowing the system doesn't make you above it. If anything, it makes you accountable to it. So before you start lecturing others on integrity, maybe take a long, hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, is this really the legacy I want to leave behind? Oprah says, stepping back from the podium, her expression warm yet resolute. Let me leave you with one final thought. There's an old saying, when you don't want to see, you don't see. Some leaders choose to ignore the suffering around them, convincing themselves that ignorance is bliss, but history will judge them not kindly. I suspect. Her expression softens. now carrying a sense of genuine warmth. So my dear friends, go forth and spread kindness, not fear, share hope, not hate. Preserve dignity, not disgrace, for in doing so you honor not only yourselves, but the principles that define us as a global community. With that, Oprah steps away from the podium, bowing gracefully, as thunderous applause echoes throughout the studio as the cameras flash and reporters scramble to capture every detail. One thing becomes crystal clear. Tonight the world witnessed not just a media mogul but a masterful comedian and perhaps the